All right. So we're on chapter 29, the Durga Puja festival of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And the master has been talking with Vijay about spiritual life. And so Vijay made the mistake of folding his hands in front of Ramakrishna and saying, "Please give me your blessing." And Ramakrishna immediately says, "Now you're talking like an ignorant person." It is God alone who blesses, right? So not himself. And if you do get a blessing from a Swami or you feel blessed by a Swami, it is because God has blessed you through that Swami. The Swami is no more important than a Kleenex in that operation. So always keep your sights on the beloved and run after God. Don't run after anything that seems like God. Run after God. Anything that you have a desire for. Steady yourself, make sure that you know it is God that has attracted you, and take God. Don't take the objects, don't take the things, don't take the manifestations. Go to the beloved. You do not need anything else. He is present always. So Vijay reframes his question a little bit different. He says, "Well, revered sir, please give us some instruction." Then. So the master glances around at the Brahmo temple and says with a smile, "This is a nice this is nice too, a mixture of crystals and syrup. There are crystals and there are syrup too. I have scored too many points and I'm therefore out of the game." Everybody laughs. "Do you know the game called Nax? It's a game of cards, and anyone scoring above 17 is out of the game. Those who score fewer points, say 5 or 7 or 10, they're clever. Well, I've scored too many, and I'm out of the game." Keshab Sen once gave a lecture at this house. I was present, and many people were there. The ladies were seated behind the screen. Keshup, in the course of his talk, said, "O God, please bless us that we may dive and disappear altogether in the river of bhakti." I said to Keshup with a smile, "Well, if you disappear altogether under the river of bhakti, what will be the fate of all of those ladies behind the screen?" By all means, dive into the river, but you had better come back to dry land now and then. Don't disappear in the river altogether." At these words, Keshup and the others burst out laughing. And this is simply that notion, the householder's tab, the householder's path is slightly different. You can't go lose yourself in samadhi because you've taken a path where others are dependent on you, and that's your service. That's your recognition of your oneness. Your practice for egolessness is to take your duty and to serve those who are dependent on you and to earn money for more people to be dependent on you, including it starts with with your wife and kids, and then it expands to their kids and their wives, and that expands to their friends and to neighbors, and then that expands to the holy people in your life, your places that you go to support your spiritual life, and then it extends beyond that to the society at large. And so, that's the key that our current billionaires have to understand. In this society, is that if you've been given the blessing of having so much, nothing wrong with that, as long as you are using it in a dharmic way, which means you're supporting the society around you, right? Not just collecting votes. And so this is important in our life. There's nothing wrong with making money, nothing wrong with wanting more money, nothing wrong with working a great job and getting promoted. But what you have to make sure is that you're using your life as a service to those around you in an egoless way, that you're not making yourself unwell, which money spent on oneself makes one very unwell spiritually. Gives you a deep sickness called arrogance. I know this from my days of my work-a-days back in the 90s. You make a certain amount of money, you start to think you deserve it. And you start walking around expecting to be treated in a particular way because you're paying. right? And you paid a lot of money, I deserve a lot more. And when you start believing that and start acting like that, you have become ill. You are not a healthy person at that point. When we lose our humility, when we lose our empathy and our commitment to serving our fellow creatures as God, if we don't do that, then we become mentally ill. Arrogance is a mental illness. Pride is a mental illness. Selfishness, mental illness. Not caring, mental illness, right? So we want to stay tender and caring and have our hearts open for love at all times. So Ramakrishna says the others are still laughing in the background for him telling them not to come up from the river occasionally, get back on dry land. And then he says to them, "Oh well, never mind. One can realize God in the world too, if only one is sincere. I and mine, that is ignorance. But O God, thou and thine, that is knowledge." Right? So to have no thought of ourself is actually the sign of being a healthy human being. It's not that you neglect yourself, right? It's just that you see everybody else's needs first and you go about taking care of them, and then you take care of yourself in order to continue to take care of them in that way. So we keep ourselves humble, keep ourselves on the serving side and not on the expectation of service side. Live in the world like a maidservant in a rich man's house. She performs all of the household duties. She brings up her master's child and speaks to him as, "Oh, my little Hari." But in her heart, she knows quite well that neither the house nor the child belong to her. She performs all her duties, but just the same as her mind, but just the same, her mind dwells on her native place. Likewise, do your worldly duties, but fix your mind on God, and know that the house, the family, and the son, that they do not belong to you. They are God's. You are only his servant, right? This is something that I'm reminded of every single day. Because even as a monk, this is true. As I pull in the driveway up to my beautiful home on the hills of Montecito, California, I always have to remember you're the caretaker here. This is not your place, right? Because it's funny, even living in a nice place, the mind wants to become proud of it. It's one of the weirdest things about arrogance, about pride, is that it will build itself on things that you're not even responsible for. You know, if you're a beautiful person, you'll become proud of being a beautiful person. Well, what did that have to do with you? That happened. You had good genes. You're not responsible. It wasn't your talent, it wasn't your skill, it wasn't anything, right? It just happened. If you've got a beautiful voice, right? The ego wants to claim that. Oh, I've got a great voice, right? Well, what did you have to do with that? Some people are born with great voices. And so how is this? And so this is how we discern to make sure that we don't convince ourselves that we're more than we need to be, right? As long as we're healthy and loving and caring about others, that's all we need to realize God. In her heart, she knows quite well that neither the house nor the child belongs to her. She performs all of her duties, but just the same, her mind dwells on her native place. Likewise, do your worldly duties, but fix your mind on God, and know that that house, that family, that son, they do not belong to you. They are God's. You are only his servant. I ask people to renounce mentally. I do not ask them to give up the world. If one lives in the world unattached and seeks God with sincerity, then one is able to attain him. See, it's like the third time here in as many paragraphs that he's mentioned sincerity as being fundamental to the path, and even the householder path. He says that in that path in particular, one realizes God if one is sincere, if you really want the divine. And you can tell that by the way that you practice. You can tell that by the effort that you put into your studies, right? By your diligence in doing your practice. There was a time, he says to Vijay, when I too would meditate on God with my eyes closed. And then I said to myself, does God exist only when I think of him with my eyes closed? Doesn't he exist when I look around with my eyes open? Now, when I look around with my eyes open, I see that God dwells in all beings. He is the indwelling spirit of all men, animals, and other living beings, trees and plants, and the sun and the moon, the land and the water. Why do I seek Shivanat? He who meditates on God for many days has substance in him, his divine power in him. Further, he who sings well, he who plays well on a musical instrument, he who has mastered any art, has in him real substance and the power of God. This is the view of the Gita. It is said in the Chandi that he who is endowed with physical beauty has in him substance and the power of God. To Vijay, ah, what a beautiful nature Kedar has. No sooner has he come to me than he bursts into tears. His eyes, they're always red and swim in tears, like a chanabara in syrup. Those are those holy man's eyes that I've seen on some of those wandering sadhus in India. They've got, you know, who had wonderful eyes like that was Swami Tadatmananda. You know, his eyelids seemed a little just one size too big for his eyes. So they had that light kind of resting droop around his eyes. And there was always the red around his eyes was showing. And it always had such a tenderness in it. Moksha Prana also had those same eyes. They're always very shiny, glassy, you know, and the red lining of the eye is always so pronounced around it, and they're so soft. When you look at them, there's such a gentleness and such a sweetness in them, like Chanabara syrup. I don't know Chanabara. That sounds like it should have cinnamon in it, but I'm sure it's probably the syrup on a gulab jamun or something. Vijay, at Dhaka, he is constantly talking about you. He's always eager to see you. Sri Ramakrishna was about to depart. The Brahmo devotees bowed low before him, and he returned their salute. Then, getting into the carriage, he set out for Adar's house to see the image of the Divine Mother. You know, I always like to see Ramakrishna when he's hanging out with the Brahmo Samaj, because I know he doesn't agree with everything that they teach, but he doesn't always harp on that. That's not the point to him. You know, he still goes there, and he still is great, very close companions with Kedar, with Sen. What's it? What Kedar? What's his name, Kaima?
Kedarnath, maybe?
Is it
Kedar,
Caternaut Sen? No, Caternaut's the name of the
Kedar Sen Gupta.
Keshav Chandra Sen, maybe.
Keshav.
Kesh,
There, thank you. You rescued
Keshav
me.
Sen Gupta.
Oh
Okay.
God, that's for as you know, as I look around and realize that pretty much everybody here, except for Aniri, is of that certain age, where you understand if you can't remember a name, it's going to be giving you a headache the rest of the day because it's going to come really close and then nope, not yet. Really close, not yet. All right, so Keshav Sen, yes. But you see the graciousness in Ramakrishna's heart, and he's demonstrating how we are to be with other people doing other paths and making other efforts in realizing God. You know, he tells them, you know, the things that he thinks when the occasion comes, but he doesn't make a point of it, and he certainly doesn't stop hanging out with them, you know, because they teach something different or think something different. And here they're the same with him. You know, they also have differences with his teachings, and yet you see how nicely they salute him as a holy man, and how he returns that salute to them as devotees, as seekers. And so this is the kind of attitude that we are allowed to have as Vedantins. We have that unique skill of being able to go into any tradition and seeing God there so that we can worship with everyone. That's how we find our oneness. That's how this break in world religions is going to heal is that we're going to start sitting together and we're going to start worshiping as each other worships with a full appreciation for it, with a full engagement in it. That I can go and sit in a Buddhist stupa and sit there in the presence of Buddha and be inspired. I can go to a Christian church and sit there and sing the hymns and be inspired. I can go to the mosque if I'm allowed, and to put my prayer rug down and to make my prayers. It's this is the way that we are. This is what it is to be a Vedantist. It is to see God everywhere and to worship that constantly. Churches and mosques and temples are just the beginning. Next, it's grocery stores, bathrooms, and the woods. Sunday, September 28th, 1884. It was the day of the Mahashtami, the most auspicious day of the worship of Durga, the Divine Mother. At Adar's invitation, Sri Ramakrishna had come to Calcutta to see the holy image at his house. Before going there, he went to Ram's. Many devotees, including Narendra and Baburam, M and Niranjan and Vijay and Kedar and Ram and Surendra were present. Balaram and Rakal were still at Vrindavan. The master looking at Vijay and Kedar with a smile. Well, this is a nice reunion today. You two have the same spiritual mood. To Vijay, well, what about Shivanath? Did you... Vijay, yes, sir. He heard that you had been to his house. I haven't seen him, but I sent him word. He knows about it. Master to Vijay and the others. 4 desires have come into my mind. Now, this is another subtle point. Do you see that? Do you see how carefully he's monitoring his mind at all times? That here he's in the middle of a conversation and he says he's fully aware. He just saw the desire arise in his mind. He knew exactly how many desires had arisen, right? He says, 4 desires have come into my mind. I shall eat fish curry cooked with eggplant. I shall visit Shivanath. The devotees will repeat the name of Hari over their beads, and I shall watch them. And the tantric devotees will drink consecrated wine, 8 annas worth, on the Ashtami day, and I shall watch them and salute them. Isn't that wonderful? Those are the desires of an avatar. Right there. We won't list the 4 that came to my mind. So these 4 wonderful desires, and you see there's so much they center around God, with the exception of eating a fish curry cooked with eggplant. Yeah, so guard the mind constantly. Be that aware, so that when a desire arises in the mind, you know exactly what that desire is, right? And you discern appropriately. Narendra was seated in front of the master. He was about 22 years old. While Sri Ramakrishna was talking thus, his eyes fell upon his beloved disciple. At once the master stood up and went into samadhi. He placed one foot on Narendra's knee. He was in a deep spiritual mood. His eyes were unblinking. His mind was completely unconscious of the outer world. After a long time, he came down to the relative plane of consciousness, but he still appeared dazed, for the intoxication of divine bliss was not altogether gone. Speaking to himself in that ecstatic state, he repeated the name of God. He said, Satchitananda, Satchitananda, Satchitananda. Shall I repeat that? No, it is the day of the Divine Mother, the giver of the bliss of divine inebriation. O Mother, full of the bliss of divine inebriation, sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni. It is not good to keep the voice on ni. It is not possible to keep it there very long. I shall keep it on the next lower note. Right? So again there, just seeing how he's aware of all these different aspects. He starts chanting Satchitananda and realizes, no, the feeling isn't there. That's not the right thing. Oh, it's Durga Puja, right? And so immediately he goes to thinking of the mother, right? And thinking of the bliss, the thinking of the play, the Leela of the mother. And so that's why he's talking about this coming down a little bit. He's not going to be oming, at his normal mantra level. He's coming down to the Shakti level, right? Where there's manifestation and there's bliss and there's love and there's joy and there's the play, the Leela all around. So he's going to be watching the Leela of the Divine Mother. There are different planes of consciousness. There's the gross, the subtle, the causal, and the great cause. Entering the Mahakarana, the great cause, one becomes silent. One cannot utter a word. But an Ishwarakoti, after attaining the great cause, can come down again to the lower planes. Incarnations of God and others like them belong to the class of the Ishwarakotis. They climb up and they can also come down. They climb to the roof and they can come down again by the stairs and move about on the lower floor. It is a case of negation and affirmation. There is, for instance, the 7-story palace of a king. Strangers have only access to the lower apartments, but the prince, who knows the palace to be his own, why, he can move up and down from floor to floor. There is a kind of rocket that throws out sparks in one pattern and then seems to go out. After a moment, it makes another pattern and then still another. There is no end to the patterns it can make. But there is another kind of rocket that, when it is lighted, makes only a dull sound, throws out a few sparks, and then goes out altogether. Like this second kind, an ordinary jiva, after much spiritual effort, can go to a higher plane, but he cannot come down to tell others his experiences. After much effort, he may go into samadhi, but he cannot climb down from that state to tell others what he has seen there. Right, so that's what he's saying. We were normal folks. And so the best that we can do is fall in love with God and know it. Have that wonderful divine peace inside, have a sense of the presence, and to recharge our batteries in that presence, to enjoy that presence, and to be inspired by it. And we may possibly have samadhi, but it won't be like the master because it will be the end of our body. We'll go into samadhi and the body will short out and we'll decide that we'd rather just kick it off and leave it behind and join the hilarity of what we're experiencing. All right. Jump over that wall and enjoy the beloved. There is a class of devotees, the Nitya Siddhas, the ever perfect. From their very birth, they seek God. They do not enjoy anything of the world, right? They've just been able to see through it from the beginning. They're just always very mature. They never really got caught up in it. They never really quite believed the promises that the world made. But most of the time, if that's all, if you're just not caught up in the world, if you don't have the idea of the beloved or of the ideal within, that just makes you bitter and tamasic, right? And so when you have proper dispassion for the world, there's no tamas there. There's no inertia there. There's an alertness there and a presence there, right? And a readiness for worshiping God in all things. Right. And so that's the difference. It's not just seeing that there's nothing in the world that can feed you or that can give you what you need. Nothing will last. That's not the point of the world. The point is for the world to sing the name of God to you, to echo his grandeur, his wonder, his majesty, his love, his grace to you, and that you look through that magnificent art of the world to the artist behind it, and you use that world to communicate, to have your play, to dance with, to enjoy the beloved, the presence. The Vedas speak of the Homa bird. It lives very high in the sky. There, the mother bird lays her egg. She lives so high that the egg falls for many days. While falling, it is hatched. The chick continues to fall. That also goes on for many days. In the meantime, the chick develops eyes. Coming near the earth, it becomes conscious of the world. It realizes that it will meet certain death if it hits the ground. Then it gives a shrill cry and shoots up toward its mother. The earth means death, and it frightens the young bird. It then seeks its mother. She dwells high up in the sky, and the young bird shoots straight up in that direction. It doesn't look anywhere else. Those who are born as the companions of an incarnation of God are eternally perfect. For some of them, that birth is their last. Turning to Vijay, you have both yoga and bhoga, right? You've got yoga, which is that the path to God, and you've got bhoga, the enjoyment of the world, right? Normally, those are two different canoes that if you don't rectify one or the other, those canoes eventually tear you apart. You've got a leg in both canoes, they're not going to stay together for the whole journey. And that's why we all have to make our decision. Are we going to pursue the world or are we going to pursue the divine, right? Use the world for that pursuit. King Janaka also had yoga and bhoga. Therefore, he is called a Rajarshi, both a king and a seer. Narada was a Devarshi and Sukadeva a Brahmarshi. Yes, Sukadeva was a Brahmarshi. He was not a mere Jnani. He was the very embodiment of Jnana, divine knowledge. Whom do I call a Jnani? A man who has attained knowledge and has done so after much effort. And that knowledge, of course, is the knowledge of who he is, what he is, right? It's not just knowledge of a philosophy. It's the knowing what you are, right? Knowing what a human is, that it's not abstract. It's a particular, and thou art that. Whom do I call a Jnani? A man who has attained knowledge and has done so much after much effort. Sukadeva was a very image of knowledge. In other words, a form of concentrated knowledge. He attained knowledge spontaneously, without any labor. Saying this, Sri Ramakrishna came down to the normal mood. Then he talked freely with the devotees. The master asked Kedar to sing. So Kedar sings, "How shall I open my heart, O friend? It is forbidden me to speak. I am about to die for lack of a kindred soul to understand my misery." We see that song lived out in Ramakrishna, every day at the temple when he hadn't realized God, before his experience in the shrine. He hadn't realized God, and every day he would roll on the ground and just throw dust on his head and lament to Mother, "Another day has passed in vain. I haven't seen you. Please don't let my whole life pass in vain. Please, please let me see you," right? And begs for that vision. Kedar sang several other songs. After the music, the master again talked to the devotees. Nandalal, Keshav's nephew, was also present with a few Brahmo friends. They were sitting near the master to Vijay and the other devotees. "A man brought a bottle of consecrated wine for me, but I couldn't even touch it." Vijay, let's see what Vijay's concern is here. "Master, I become intoxicated at the mere thought of God. I don't have to take any wine. I feel drunk at the very sight of the Charanamrita. I feel as if I had drunk 5 bottles of liquor. When a person attains such a state, he cannot help discriminating about food." Narendra, "As regards food, one should take whatever comes." That's my ideal. Master, what you say applies only to a particular state of the aspirant's mind. No food can harm a Jnani. According to the Gita, the Jnani himself does not eat. His eating is an offering to the Kundalini, right? So there's no sense of I behind the eating. And so all the flavor and stuff, he's not considering that as an enjoyment. He's not noticing the flavor and then enjoying it, applying his enjoyment to it, right? Because it's an offering. Everything that goes into the body of a Gyani, whether it's through the ears, the nose, eyes, ears, or mouth or skin, all of that is offering. The thought, it goes directly to the beloved within. It doesn't stop at the ego for an opinion or an appreciation. It goes right past the ego, right to God. So you take a bite of that delicious, dessert. You don't sit there and, oh, I love rasgulas, right? You don't do that. That's it. That's putting yourself in there and stealing. What you do is you let that flavor go through, and instead of enjoying it and thinking of it in regard to yourself, you think of it only in regard to God. So you taste it, but you taste it for the beloved, right? You digest it, but you digest it for the beloved. There's no thought of self in there. And so this is how the Gyani lives in the world, a realized person. Everything in the world is being done directly with God. Himself is not present. His ego self is not present there. So everything he's doing is worship. He is worshiping continually. And his shrine is the whole world. And the utensils for the shrine are everything that his hands touch. Right? That's what it is to be a knower of God. It is to walk in this world as a continual pujari, offering everything you touch to God, everything you think to God, everything you taste, everything you hear, everything you smell. All of it is offered to the beloved, right? Collected by you and offered as love. According to the Gita, the Gyani himself does not eat. His eating is offered to the Kundalini. But that does not apply to a bhakta. The present state of my mind is such that I cannot eat any food unless it is first offered to God by a Brahmin priest. Formerly, my state of mind was such that I would enjoy inhaling the smell of burning corpses carried by the wind from the other side of the Ganges. Right. So he enjoyed that smell. He used to go, I know that smell, and I've told you that story about me when I was there in Varanasi. I smelled that, and it was right about lunchtime. And I was with my friend Philip, and we thought we'd follow that smell because surely that was a restaurant somewhere. That was a very unpleasant day to follow that smell to the burning ghats on the banks of the river and realize that my mouth had been watering for corpses that were burning at the ghat. And so here now look, it turns out I have something in common with the master. Right? He says here, formerly my state of mind was such that I would enjoy inhaling the smell of burning corpses carried away by the wind from the other side of the Ganges. Okay. All right. So that's the difference. So the Gyani is offering it to God as he eats it. The Bhakta won't eat it until it's been offered, right? So his devotion requires that showing of respect to the deity to make sure that the deity gets it first. Yeah. Of course, I think the Bhakta can also do what the Gyani is doing, maybe a little bit later down the road when his mind is purified and he doesn't see himself as eating, in time. All right. Formerly, my state of mind was such that I would enjoy inhaling the smell of burning corpses carried by the wind from the other side of the Ganges. It tasted very sweet to me. But nowadays, I cannot eat food that's been touched by anybody and everybody. No, I cannot. But once in a while, I do. One day, I was taken to see a performance of a play at Keshav's house. They gave me luchi and curries to eat. I didn't know whether the food was handed to me by a washerman or a barber, but I ate quite a little. Everyone laughs. Rakal also asked me to eat. To Narendra, with you it is all right. You are in this as well as in that. You can eat everything now, to the devotees. Blessed is he who feels longing for God, though he eats pork. But shame on him whose mind dwells on woman and gold, though he eats the purest food boiled vegetables, rice and ghee. Right? So it really, the most important thing is that sincerity and earnestness, the condition of the mind inside. Your practices, your disciplines, your achievements, those aren't really the thing. Those are just things that sort of are along the wayside as we grow. But the real thing is the state of your mind, right? The purity of your mind, how much me and mine is still up there, right? Are you still looking for the pleasures of the world? Once I had a desire to eat dal cooked in a blacksmith's house. He's got very interesting desires, doesn't he? Very particular. I want fish curry, you know, with eggplant. And oh yes, also I want to go to a blacksmith's house and eat dal. Once I had the desire to eat dal cooked in a blacksmith's house. From my childhood, I had heard that the blacksmiths say, "Do the Brahmins know how to cook?" I ate the dal, but it smelled like the blacksmith. Everybody laughed. I received an Allah mantra from Govinda Rai. Wow, so he had a Muslim mantra given to him. I received the Allah mantra from Govinda Rai. Rice was cooked for me with onions in the kuti. I ate some. I ate curry in Mani Malik's garden house, but I felt a kind of repulsion to it. When I went to Karmarpur, Ramlal's father was frightened. He thought I might eat at any and every house. He was frightened to think I might be expelled from the caste, so I couldn't stay long. I came away. Right? So he just wasn't in that mindset of really concerning himself with the social customs, right? His mind was soaring above them, and it was making people nervous because they thought he was going to get thrown out of his caste, which is quite a problematic thing to happen, right? You lose your place in society. And so, but in reality, I mean, the funny part of it is that he's already done that. When he took sannyas, he threw his caste away already, right? And he's a Brahmin in the true sense of what Vivekananda says. That a Brahmin is not a genetic hereditary thing. A Brahmin is that person who seeks God, right? Someone who seeks God is a Brahmin in the original meaning, according to uh, Vivekananda. Both the Vedas and the Puranas describe pure food and conduct, but what the Vedas and the Puranas ask people to shun as impure is extolled by the Tantra as good. Oh, what a state of mind I passed through. I would open my mouth, touching it as it were, heaven and the netherworld with my jaws, and utter the word Ma. I felt that I had seized the mother like a fisherman dragging a fish in his net. Let me recite a song. This time I shall devour you utterly, Mother Kali, for I was born under an evil star, and one so born becomes, they say, the eater of his mother. You must devour me first, or I myself will eat you up. One or the other it must be. I shall bespear my hands with black, and with black my face. With black I shall besmear the whole of my body, and when death seizes me, with black I shall besmear his face. O mother, I shall eat you up, but not digest you. I shall install you in my heart, and make you offerings with my mind. You say that by eating Kali I shall embroil myself with Kala, her husband, but I am not afraid. Braving his anger, I shall chant my mother's name. To show the world that Ram Prasad is Kali's rightful son, come what may, I shall eat you up, you and your retinue, or lose my life attempting it. I almost became mad Such was my longing for God. Narendra began to sing, O mother, make me mad with your love. What need have I of knowledge or reason? So we just see that commitment right there with Ramakrishna. I'm going to eat you up, mother. Think of the intensity of that. Right? I am not afraid. I will brave even Kala's anger. I will chant my mother's name. Listening to the song, the master again went into samadhi. Coming down to the normal plane, he assumed the attitude of Girirani, and sang the Agamani. He sang intoxicated with divine love. That's fascinating because when it says intoxicated, it really means that he slurred his words, he stumbled around when he danced. He was intoxicated by the love of God. You know, that just chanting the name or thinking of God would place him in that state where he would stagger like a drunkard. It was sometimes his concern that people would think that he was a drunkard, a real, from alcohol. But it was because of his love of God that just by chanting the name, he would begin to stumble. Tell me, my Uma, how you have fared alone in the stranger's house. He said to the devotees, Today is the Mahashtami. The mother has come. That is why I feel such an awakening of a spiritual emotion. Kedar, Lord, you are here. Are you different from the Divine Mother? Sri Ramakrishna looked in another direction and sang in an absent-minded mood, Ah, friend, I have not found him yet, whose love has driven me mad. Again he became ecstatic and sang of the Divine Mother. As he sang, Vijay suddenly stood up, crying the name of Hari. Sri Ramakrishna, full of divine love, began to dance with Vijay and the other devotees. The music was over. The master and Vijay and Narendra, the other devotees, they sat down. All their eyes were fixed on Sri Ramakrishna, who began conversing with the devotees. He asked about their health. Kedar spoke to him humbly in a soft and sweet voice. Narendra, Chunilal, Ram, M, and Harish were sitting by the master. Kedar humbly, How can I get rid of my dizziness? The master tenderly, One gets that. I have had it myself. Use a little almond oil. I have heard that it cures dizziness. I shall, sir. Master to Chunilal, Hello, how is everything? Chunilal, Everything is all right with us now. Balaram Babu and Rakal are well in Brindavan. Master, why have you sent so many sweetmeats? To Harish, wait a day or two before coming to Dakshineshwar. You are not well. You may fall ill again there. To Narayan tenderly, Sit here. No, come sit by me. Come to Dakshineshwar tomorrow and have your meal there. Pointing to M, Come with him. And to M, What do you say? M wanted to accompany Sri Ramakrishna to Dakshineshwar that very day. He became thoughtful. Surendra stood near Sri Ramakrishna. He was in the habit of drinking and often went to excess. This had worried the master greatly, but he had not asked Surendra to give up drinking altogether. He said to him, Look here, Surendra, whenever you drink wine, offer it before the Divine Mother. See that your brain doesn't become clouded and that you don't reel. The more you think of the Divine Mother, the less you will like to drink. The Mother is the giver of the bliss of divine inebriation. Realizing her, one feels a natural bliss. Right? He wants them to make the transition. To seek bliss is natural, right? There's nothing unnatural about seeking bliss from alcohol. It's just not mature. It's not going to give you what you're looking for, because what it gives you is just a dose of divine bliss. Just a dose. Only the amount that it's allowed to give to you. And then it's gone. And you're left in a worse state than you started with, because now you've tasted some bliss and you don't have it anymore. So if you think it's the object, you're going to become an alcoholic, and you're going to become addicted to that little bit of bliss that you can get from a glass of wine. And you're going to have to continually drink it, right, to keep that bliss going. And so Ramakrishna is telling him, he's saying, look, I'm not telling you not to drink because it's natural to want that bliss, but I am telling you that you're not going to get it from drinking. You have to remember the mother. So use that alcohol to remember the mother by offering it to her each time you have a drink, right? And little by little, you'll come to find out that real bliss, lasting bliss, that which the alcohol is imitating, is the real thing, which is the name of God, the Divine Mother, the Divine Presence, right? And seek that out. Don't waste your time with these little trinkets in the world. Realizing the mother, one feels a natural bliss. The master looked at Surendra and said, "You have had a drink." With these words, he went into samadhi. Interesting, huh? That him seeing that someone had drank some alcohol made him go into samadhi. That shows you, see, for him, everything is spiritual. He saw the desire for a drink to be a longing for God, because that's what it actually is. When the discernment is finished, then we know that all of our desire was a cry for God, right? So he sees the devotee desiring his beloved, and that throws him into samadhi, right? He doesn't see sin because sin is not in him. He sees Adar's longing for the alcohol, but he knows in truth, it's his longing for God. And that's enough to put him into a state of samadhi. The master looked at Surendra and said, "You have had a drink." And with these words, he went into samadhi. It was dusk. Regaining partial consciousness, the master sang, "Behold my mother playing with Shiva, lost in ecstasy of joy. Drunk with a draught of celestial wine, she reels, and yet she does not fall." Then he chanted the name of Hari, clapping his hands occasionally. In a sweet voice, he said, "Hari, Hari, O mind. Chant the name of Hari, sing the name of Hari." And then he chanted, "Rama, Rama, Rama, Rama." Now the master began to pray, "O Rama, O Rama, I am without devotion and austerity, without knowledge and without love. I have not performed any religious rites, O Rama. I have taken refuge in you. I have taken shelter at your feet. I do not want creature comforts. I do not seek name and fame. O Rama, I do not crave the 8 occult powers. I do not care for 100 occult powers. I am your servant. I have taken refuge in you. Grant, O Rama, that I may have pure love for your lotus feet, and that I may not be deluded by your world-bewitching Maya. O Rama, I have taken refuge in you." As the master prayed, all eyes were turned toward him. Hearing his piteous voice, few could restrain their tears. And we'll stop there for the day.